Welcome to the POMcast with Steve Willis, your independent, unbiased, and unbought source for Ole Miss athletics. That's me. I'm Stephen Willis. No, seriously, I'm Stephen Willis here to show you the POMcast, to bring light into your life. It's a bye week. It's a 11/4 day after election day, Wednesday. It's chilly as hell outside, and I hope everybody is having a great day. This week, always, as you know, Ole Miss has a bye. They are not playing. The SEC generally is not playing as many games as they normally would because of buys. So I figured today we would talk about this upcoming weekend, kind of a pre-around the SEC, which will be available tomorrow at 2. But, maybe you can get a little bit of knowledge. Maybe you can head down that road a little bit. Anyway, let's take care of some house cleaning. You can follow me on Twitter at the Stephen Willis or the show at Positively. You can like us on Facebook at facebook.com/POMcast or join our Facebook group at Positively Ole Miss. There's also an Around the SEC Facebook page you can like as well. Or you can subscribe to our YouTube channel at Positively Ole Miss. And you can catch us on Twitch at Positively Ole Miss, all one word. If audio is more your thing, and right now, who could blame you? You can catch us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, and Pandora. I think I said SoundCloud. But we're also on things like Podbean and like low-level podcatchers as well, but those are the major apps we are on. And you can catch us there. You can rate and review it. You can leave it. You can say whatever you want to. Just, make sure it's 5-star. That's going to help us in the algorithm. When they search for Ole Miss football, this podcast will go up because, as you know, this is the greatest podcast ever, which I appreciate. So we're going to talk about this weekend in the SEC and beyond, and kind of where we are. And we'll start out with number 8 Florida and number 5 Georgia in Jacksonville. The former cocktail party, now just, I don't know, bunch of people getting drunk. I don't know what it's called now. But you have Kyle Trask and Kyle Pitts who are just dealing at the moment. And then you have a running back like Zamir White coming into focus. And Georgia is regressing throwing the ball. Now, Georgia has been my example du jour when it comes to system fit and not evaluating based on what they're doing. Their philosophy is to take a 5-star and it doesn't matter what you're doing. And their offense is very regressive. And Stetson Bennett I just do not think he's a fit for that offense. Every time I look at Georgia play, I think Stetson Bennett is a problem. Now, you have people, because the bar for him, he started this season as 4th string, and then due to opt-outs, injuries, and just like having silver dollar eyes in the Arkansas game, he ended up getting the job. I mean, a rapid ascent from 4th to 1st. But Stetson Bennett, due to that low bar, people don't call what they see. Whenever he completes a pass, it's like, oh, he did well. We need to treat him like he's a good quarterback because he did well doing that. Not that, well, what he just did is the baseline for what we need for where we want to go. If that makes sense. Oh, that throw will get us, I don't know, to the SEC championship game maybe. Maybe it'll beat Florida. It's not one that's like, oh, that's a college football playoff throw. And right now, I've talked to Corey Burton on, you will hear him talk on Around the SEC tomorrow at 2 o'clock, that for Georgia to get to where they want to be, JT Daniels has to be in control. The problem is with JT Daniels is he's having trouble staying healthy, and his bounce back has slowed. Remember last year he tore his ACL, so he's still dealing a little bit with that. But they said he's just slowed in his recovery. So Stetson Bennett has an advantage because JT Daniels is limited. That's the reason Stetson Bennett is playing quarterback, in my opinion. Now, I am not a JT Daniels fan. You know, I won't just prop him up for no reason. But it is important to know that the former Army All-American is the talent-wise the best quarterback on their roster currently. And we talk about evaluation. Who started the season and won the job? He wasn't there either. He wasn't that guy. And Georgia is surviving because their defense is legit. I mean, that's just the truth. Georgia is surviving because their defense is legit. There's not really anything offensively that can be said. I mean, Zamir White, I mean, he's good. He's a fine back. They have fine backs. It's Georgia. They have receivers that, if put in the right system, would be just as good as Alabama's. Very talented guys. But what they're kind of force-feeding want to run is hand the ball to Zamir White and pro-style it down the field where George Pickens is the only player that fits that offense. I mean, that's a problem. All right, segment 2, we'll continue our trip through the SEC. I'm Stephen Willis. Thank you. Stay tuned.
Only 10% of us get enough daily exercise.
And that number is dropping.
Nearly 30% of us are overweight or obese.
We spend 6 hours a day in front of a screen.
As a result, we now have a shorter life expectancy than our parents.
But give us the right start in sports, and we'll never stop.
Learn how at active4life.ca.
Hey, this is Stephen Willis from Positively Ole Miss. We're almost done with this break. We'll be back with good information quite soon.
The military has been in every generation of my family, and so has VA. It wasn't easy for my dad after Vietnam, but VA helped him and my mom get the home they'd always wanted. My grandpa's been coming to VA since World War II. They even helped him lay to rest one of his battle buddies from Normandy. And me, I followed in their footsteps and served with pride. And now that I'm out of the military, the GI Bill's helping me with school. Every generation of my family has served, and VA has served us all.
All right, POMcast, Stephen Willis, thanks for listening on this day after Election Day podcast. pretty good. I hope you went out and exercised your civic duty to do so. As we have seen this coming in, this is absolutely remarkable and actually just very much worth paying attention to today. I'm in a very good mood. I'm smiling. I woke up whistling this morning, and that's probably because of what I went to bed to. All right, Florida and Georgia, we talked in the first segment. The next one, we go from the top of the SEC to the bottom, as the next one is Vanderbilt and Mississippi State. Now, after starting the first game of the season with such fireworks, Mississippi State has basically hit the struggle bus. And Colin Hill has opted out and gone pro. Like 5 or 6 players have opted out. And now a true freshman quarterback is going to play, and they have true freshman running backs in the system. And the reason why is Mike Leach doesn't take any junk. He's not going to put up with anything. It's his way or the highway. And as you can see, it just doesn't matter. With Mike Leach, his first year is always a struggle because of that. By year 3 and year 4, I mean, they are absolutely one way able to be what he wants them to be. But, I mean, who knows? Who knows with these guys? Because the wide receivers are struggling mightily. And this is not a surprise because Mississippi State is not known for having wide receivers. There's no Elijah Moore on the roster. There's no Jonathan Mingo. There's no Dontario Drummond. It's a bunch of, how do I put this? Miles Battles playing wide receiver for Mississippi State. Now, if Miles Battle can't get on the field for us, you would think he'd have trouble getting on the field for them. But he would be one of the best wide receivers on that roster. They are really struggling. The little things like catching the ball, running routes, knowing where to drop off against a zone defense and settle down. Things like that are just foreign to them at this point. And at a certain point, it's like teaching or trying to put a square peg in a round hole. And that's the way it's going to be until you get your guys in. I just don't think people really understand how much LSU's defense and Mississippi State's offense is about the system change. And people want to deny that because, A, whenever there's just one system, you can say a player is good or a player is bad, and you have a talent issue, and you don't have to inspect what is going on. You don't have to be knowledgeable about what you are talking about. You can use the talent crutch. But the players that run the Mississippi State offense and the LSU defense are completely different than what is required to run them. And LSU is full of 4 and 5 star players. Well, it just doesn't matter because they're 4 and 5 stars built to run a 3-4. They're designed to go A gap to B gap, not sideline to sideline. They're a little bit slow to do that. So teams are able to run the ball. You get them in space, they throw them. Double moves, they're very susceptible. The 3-4 defense and the 4-3 defense are very different. And the types of players that you are recruiting. Now, if you took Ole Miss, for instance, you would have 3 defensive line, like 280, 300, 280. Your outside linebackers would be 250, 250. And you would be 250 at 250 at middle linebacker. Now play a 4-3 with that. And you end up with the first 3 games of the season. Especially with no spring and no fall camp. take away continuity, you add in asking them to do something that they're not built to do. They weren't recruited to do. You see, people want to fire a coach. Like, Matt Luke was 4-8 after the Egg Bowl, and people wanted to fire Matt Luke. The problem is, if you get the wrong guy, the wrong fit for your current personnel, your rebuild has been extended by 2 years. And you better have the stomach for that rebuild, or you're just going to get in the cycle of fire your coach, fire your coach, fire your coach. Because the personnel can never get to the level that needs to be. It's all about that. This whole thing. A coach can be good, a coach can be bad, but in reality, it's about players and about fitting what you're trying to get them to do. We told you before this season, Ole Miss's strength was the running back room. The offensive line was drilled in zone blocking. This running scheme is zone blocking and the running backs. Then you add in Elijah Moore, who's doing, fantastic, 61 catches in 6 games. You have the outside guys doing their things, and you brought in a tight end. And now the offense just expanded to be great, but it was all centered around the system fit with Rich Rod and the offensive line and the running backs. Wasn't a surprise. Even without John Rice Plumlee, those guys are just kind of making it. But the opposite of that is true on defense for Ole Miss. The system change happened because of the coaching change, where you had the personnel to run the 3-4 defense. Lakia Henry was recruited to run the 3-4 defense. Big outside linebackers. And you kind of running an over and under defense. A little bit different. A little bit different going when you're asked to go, A gap to B gap. And then you're asked to, hey, set the edge on this one. Spill it. Early in the season, as you can tell, we weren't getting there. You can't set the edge if you can't get there. And lazy people will say that is a talent issue. That's not a talent issue. That's a lazy analysis of the problem. It's not a talent issue. It's a fit issue. Now, Ole Miss has 30 players that they have no choice but to run out. You have a bunch of Wesley Griff guys, some Mike McIntyre guys, and DJ Durkin hadn't really had a chance to get his guys in yet. So what you see is a band-aided patchwork defense of players that kind of fit what you want to do, but not really. Well, these linebackers are great, but it needs to be a little different. But the evaluation will make that more susceptible. All right, moving on. Number 7, Texas A&M is at South Carolina. South Carolina is the opponent for Ole Miss next weekend, so watch that game. That's kind of funny that they're the military appreciation game again. Texas A&M is really kind of coming on right now. Their only loss is to Alabama. There's no shame there. They're a zone defense type of team, and South Carolina's offense struggled against LSU. That's a major red flag for me. Any offense that is struggling against LSU means that they're not adapting to what they're seeing. Or they're so regressive in playing 2005 football, Bo Pelini was just on it. Because South Carolina is kind of a pro-style old man football team right now. They've kind of moved away from the spread. as is the want of Will Muschamp. Shi Smith is explosive. He looks a lot explosive. Kevin Harris at running back is having a phenomenal year. He's averaging over 5 a carry. But with Isaiah Spiller, I think that is the play in this one. I think I really like Isaiah Spiller. I want to call him Aeneas Williams, but Aeneas Smith, I think. Excuse me if I got his name wrong. He's a fantastic slash type player. He's running back, wide receiver. He reminds me a lot of DeAndre Swift. And it's just going to be interesting to see Texas A&M and how they matriculate the ball down the field. Because this game is going to be old man football versus old man football. So Will Muschamp also will be in his comfort zone as opposed to playing a spread team, which he genuinely has trouble with. Remember, South Carolina beat Georgia last year. South Carolina beat Georgia last year, and it is worth pointing that out because this is kind of an old man football type of game. It's something to keep an eye on. A&M is favored by 10. Anyway, one more game for this weekend to cover. Stick around.
You want to answer that, don't you? I bet it's just killing you seeing the soft glow just inches away. Someone wants to tell you something or ask you something. Oh, come on, answer it already! Just so we're clear, that wasn't my fault. Next time, ignore your inner voice. Don't text and drive. A message from Florida's trusted choice independent insurance agents.
Hey, this is Stephen Willis. I just want you to stick around a little longer. We're going to get back to the podcast right after these messages.
Tonight, nearly 40,000 veterans across the country are homeless. These men and women have pledged to serve our nation, and now we must serve them. Landlords across the country have helped make significant progress in reducing veteran homelessness by making housing available, but there is more that we can do to bring our veterans home. Visit www.va.gov/homeless to see how you can get involved. And if you are a veteran and you are experiencing homelessness, please call 877-4AID-VET. Thank you.
All right, POMcast, Stephen Willis, thanks for tuning in on this fantastic Wednesday, 11/4/2020. Coming at you. So, one more game on the schedule. Tennessee is at Arkansas. Tennessee is favored by 1.5 points. So, that's basically a pick 'em. And in a normal season, Tennessee would be favored by 3.5 points on a neutral field. So it should be interesting. And Tennessee is another team that plays old man football. And they have massive quarterback problems at Tennessee. Meanwhile, Arkansas has tempo. And that doesn't sound like much, but it is a problem. They've devised a system, just like Ole Miss, to function as quick as possible. So when it's time to go, they can go. When it's time to go, they can go. And I like Treylon Burks at wide receiver. He's a very good player. I like Eric Gray for Tennessee at running back. And Felipe Franks has been serviceable at quarterback. So, in a game like this, I am looking to see which team forces the other to play at their tempo. Like I said, Tennessee wants to play old man football. They want to slow it down. Arkansas wants to be rocket ship fast. Which team imposes their will on the other? That team will probably be successful. Now, the flip side of it is the defense that Barry Odom runs, that 3 safety, drop 8, and everything that he got famous this year because of, will not work against Tennessee because they want to line up and play old man football with you. So you're going to see a little bit more. You're going to see a little bit more. So, in this game, I just am really looking forward to see that. That is the most important part to me, is which team imposes their will. If you look at Florida and Georgia, can Florida pass the ball? If you look at Vandy and Mississippi State, which team can score the ball? And if you look at Texas A&M and South Carolina, which team can run the ball? And if you look at Tennessee and Arkansas, which team imposes their will on the other? That's what I'm looking for this weekend. Simple, right? Just look for those things. I'm super duper smart. No, and just looking around the country, number 11, Miami plays NC State. A ranked game between Indiana and Michigan. That could be something worth keeping an eye on, especially after Michigan fell to Michigan State. And, Liberty is ranked. Hugh Freeze. And let's see, any other ranked games? Oh, Clemson and Notre Dame is this weekend from Notre Dame Stadium. Clemson number 1, Notre Dame number 4. And, ACC title is on the line for this game. Clemson will play it without Trevor Lawrence. So it could be interesting to see. Clemson is currently favored by 5.5. So that's worth keeping an eye on. Coastal Carolina is number 15 in the country. That's crazy, isn't it? Now, that's a function of who they play. Their best win was against Kansas. I don't think we should forget that. And I just don't see anything else. It's kind of a blah weekend of college football. We need to enjoy it. Remember, celebrate the positives, ignore the negatives. We need to enjoy it because there was a time we didn't think we were going to get it. And we got it, so let's enjoy it. Now, I'm going to take this little bit to tell you that on Friday there will be no POMcast. We will close with the Around the SEC on Thursday at 2, but we are going to be shopping for the palatial Central Florida studios this weekend. So listen to that, and I'll try to figure out what we're going to do. Maybe we'll talk basketball. It's hard for me to talk basketball because I'm just not in a basketball mindset. It's football. And that's all that matters. And during a bye week, that is difficult. Again, in case you didn't read, DeMarcus Thomas, the tight end from Ole Miss, was released from the hospital. Apparently everything came back, thank goodness. And it's good for him. I mean, everybody was praying for him. I thought we had another Chucky system on our hands, and luckily we did not. So sit back today, enjoy it, follow the election coverage that looks like it's going to swing one way, I expect President-elect Joe Biden to be named sometime in the next day or two. I'm Stephen Willis. This has been the POMcast. Thanks for listening.